What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another hunting boot camp. Today I'm talking about how to be more successful at waterfowling on public land. But real quick, before we jump into that, be sure to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of the latest hunting content. Now back to the topic at hand, how to be more successful at waterfowl hunting on public land. So the first tip is simply scouting. Scouting is a key component of any successful hunt. You can get lucky and have some successful hunts here and there, but overall, to maintain success, you need to get out and scout. And I don't care if you're talking turkeys, waterfowl, deer, whatever. You need to know your areas, where you're going, and what those areas look like. So things to look at, look at the aerial photography to find places to start looking and to make sure they're public. I mean, we're talking about public land here. You want to make sure you know where those boundaries are, and maybe you'll find some places that possibly could get overlooked as well. There might be some public areas that might not show up on certain maps for whatever reason. Might be public areas that it doesn't really show up the best on a map, like maybe there's a little water hole and it's seasonal, so maybe some years it isn't there, and you got to put boots on the ground ultimately. But start out looking at it aerially. There's Onyx Maps is great for this. There's no limit of different softwares that you can look at for aerial photography. And once you have it narrowed down to kind of areas you think you want to look, then you got to put boots on the ground. You got to go out there and you want to be looking for a couple different things. You want to be looking for your hide. Where can you successfully brush in so you can disappear, whether you're boat hunting or just walking in or taking a kayak or whatever. You want to have a great hide, especially on public land. And then you want to think about different scenarios, different weather scenarios, different wind, where the sun's coming up and where it's going down, what time of day you're planning on hunting these. All those can factor into what makes an area good, because sometimes the birds will be there in the morning, they won't be there in the afternoon, or they'll be there midday, they won't be there first thing in the morning. So you need to pinpoint those times. You need to keep scouting throughout the season, because it's also going to change. Maybe the water levels are going to go down, or maybe it's shallow water and it'll freeze up. So you want to stay ahead of all those conditions. You want to know what the ideal spots are for whatever conditions you're facing. And wind direction is another one that goes into your hide. I like to have the wind at my back so the birds are coming right into me. Some guys like a crosswind so the birds aren't looking right at them, and that all factors into it. So scouting is a super important part. And on public, sometimes it can benefit you actually to take a morning off. I've done it. It will pain you at first. You will be like, man, I should be out hunting, but sometimes you have to take a morning off and you got to watch what the birds are doing. You might see them going into some people's spreads, but watch where the ones that are not going into the spreads are. They're finding those refuges, and if they're on public, you can go hunt them. And if they're on private, maybe you go knock on some doors and maybe get some access to another spot that you didn't have before. But don't be afraid to take a morning off of hunting and just scout and follow the birds. Find out where they're coming from, where they're going, where the pressure is driving them to, because as birds get to the area and they stick around that area, they're not being pushed down by fronts, and you're not getting new birds in, you're hunting stale birds. That is where the scouting is really important. You need to find those hidden areas, those little honey holes, and the birds will tell you where they are. You just got to follow them. You just got to find them and follow them. So scouting is super important part of hunting public land. It's an important part of hunting just altogether. But if you do the work and scout your butt off, more often than not, you're going to be more successful on public land. So the second tip is be different. And I mean this in a whole bunch of different ways. We'll start out with decoys. You think your typical hunter, probably goose decoys and mallard decoys. But rely on your scouting. Rely on your scouting to tell you what birds are in the area, what ducks are associating with safety. I've had great success with coot decoys. I also have divers in the area, canvasbacks, redheads. They're big and white. They stick out. The decoys especially help you contrast other spreads in the area, and those birds are in the area, so it looks more natural. The ducks are used to seeing canvasbacks and redheads and pintails and widgeon and all that, not just mallards and goose decoys. So be different. Switch up your spread. Try to be as realistic as possible. Rely on confidence decoys, coots, swans, goose decoys, whatever. You could even use a heron if you wanted to. And then don't rely on the typical spread. Don't rely on the U pattern or the J hook. Those can work, but are those how ducks are naturally set? No. Rely on your scouting to see what they're doing. Maybe they'll just be in little pods, so you'll have 3 ducks here and 2 here and 1, or just have a little pod, and then you make that work for whatever your hide is and whatever your situation that you're hunting is. And spinners, it's another great example. You know, people will run 5 spinners. I like to put my spinners away after mid-season. You know, I might break them out here and there on really situation dependent days, but for the most part, I don't like, you know, I like to pull my spinners. I don't like to have them out there because other people will run them season long, and birds, you know, they get educated at that. They figure that out fairly quickly. So going with no spinners. Calling, another great example. There'll be guys out there highballing at every flock that flies over, or hail calling, or whatever, you know, just non-stop on their calls. That's not natural. Birds pick that up. They're educated. They know that's not what they want. I'll do the opposite. I'll shut up. I'll be quiet, especially if someone's, you know, highballing at every flock. And more often than not, I have birds come in because I'm being different, you know. Maybe I'll just get on a whistle or, you know, something different, just a soft quack here or there. But I'm not going to keep hammering on them like, you know, the rest of the marshes. You just be different. Do stuff different than what everyone else is doing, and that can be the difference between success and failure. And another instance is hunt at different times than, you know, what most people do. Most people hunt the weekends. They hunt in the mornings, and they'll be done by 11 o'clock or noon at the latest. You know, hunt all day if you have to. Hunt, you know, get out there mid-morning as people are packing up. Get out there, hunt afternoons. I've had great success hunting in the afternoon. Hunt weekdays if it's possible. You know, Wednesdays, there's usually no one out there because, you know, if you think about it, either they'll extend their weekend to Monday, Tuesday, or they'll take an early weekend, Thursday, Friday, if anyone's going to take off, and then hunt the rest of the weekend. So, you know, focus on those weekdays. Focus on weekday afternoons. There's nothing wrong with hunting those. And like I said, I've had great success. Just save your vacation days up, take off whenever you can. You know, I've gotten off work and I've only had an hour to hunt by the time I've gotten out there. And come back with 1 or 2 ducks. That's a good hunt in my book. That's fine. I will do that every time I can because I just love being out there. So all it takes is, you know, just doing something a little different or a lot different, and it can help you be a lot more successful on public land, especially as the season goes on, as the birds get educated and they might get stale around your area. So third tip is focus on hide, focus on concealment. You want to be as hidden as possible from the birds, especially on public land, because you're competing against other people. So if they're sticking out but you're not, they're probably going to see that person flare off their spread because, like, that don't look right. And then better chance they come into yours. So the more hidden you are, the better chance you have at getting birds. I don't care if it's public land, I don't care if it's private land, or if you're just, and I don't care if you're competing against people or you're just hunting by yourself and you got the whole marsh to yourself. You need to be as hidden as possible. So don't be afraid to break out the face mask, the face paint, especially on those sunny days. You don't want that shine coming off your face. You know, use shadows to your advantage. Have the sun at your back if you can. It's a lot better than looking into the sun and getting that shine once again off your face or your sunglasses or whatever. You don't want the, you know, any of that shine. The birds can see that thing and pick that up. And be sure to match the vegetation. If you're brushing something in like an A-frame or a layout blind or a boat blind, try to match as close as possible to that vegetation that you're going to be hunting, making sure you blend in as best as possible. And it can be other stuff, you know, there's other things that you might not even think about. Like, for instance, went on a hunt last year, snow hunt. We were planning on hiding in cattails. Unfortunately, they weren't as thick as we thought they were going to be, and so we just had to kind of hunker down. I didn't have any snow camo. I didn't have any white. I didn't have a white hat. I didn't have a white hoodie. If I did, we probably would have decoyed more birds. Now, we still ended up getting our limit. We still had a good hunt, but the birds weren't decoying right into us how we wanted them to, and they could pick us out. You could tell that they could see us, something was off. So just thinking about that white hoodie, thinking about a white hat could have helped us have a lot better hunt. So it all goes into the concealment. Try to hide as best as possible, and, you know, learn from your mistakes like I did. You know, after that, now I carry a white hoodie and white hat with me just in case, you know, there's frost or snow or whatever. So focus on concealment, and that will help you get more birds in. So the fourth tip is adapt, kind of like what Bear Grylls says, you know, adapt, improvise, overcome, whatever, something like that. Be adaptable, be able to improvise, be able to, you know, change if there's a hitch. You know, things don't always go as planned when you're out hunting, especially waterfowl hunting. Something might happen. So don't be afraid to switch it up, and don't be afraid to, you know, have all the tools at your disposal that you might need to get to those spots you want to. or to have the best hunt that you can. So a couple examples of this are freelance duck hunting Elliot and Duck and Chronicles Jordan. They are not afraid to pack up and move if the birds are not coming in on their public lands. They'll be set up somewhere in the morning. You know, it might have taken them a while to set all their decoys up, get the boat blind or the kayaks, whatever, however they want them. If the birds aren't coming in after a couple hours and they're seeing them go over here, over there, Jordan and Elliot, they'll pack up. They'll load their A-frames onto the boat and drive over somewhere else and try it over that way. Or they'll throw some decoys on their back and walk over to the other spot and try that and try a different hide. So be able to adapt. You know, if you're seeing birds go somewhere else, be mobile. And that goes into having all the right tools for the trade. You know, a kayak can get you in some really good spots. Boat with a mud motor can get you in some good spots. You know, have those options. You know, a sled or a cart. If you're walking in, you don't want to push a cart through a ton of cattails. A sled might be better in that option. Or walking up or downstream or over snow or whatever. You know, have all those tools. Be able to adapt for anything. You know, you never know what you're going to encounter out in the marsh. And going off this, you know, it's public land. So your spot, you might get there at 2 a.m. It might already be taken. Someone might have already camped you. They might have beat you out to your spot. So always have a plan B, C, D, E. If this spot's taken, what am I going to do? If this spot's taken, what am I going to do? If this spot's taken, what am I going to do? And at that point, you know, maybe that's when you have to call it and go do some morning scouting and then try a mid-morning or afternoon hunt. You know, I've done that before, had success doing that, and had, you know, learned a lot from scouting in the morning. And another part of this is working with your neighbors. And what I mean by that is if you get out to a spot and someone else comes up, you know, a little later than you, it's public land, it happens. Don't be afraid to invite them in, or, you know, talk to them at least. You don't want to start a yelling match, and you don't want to be competing against each other set up 100 yards away. Now, it doesn't always happen like this, but if you can avoid a confrontation, you know, you just cool heads prevail before you guys even go out hunting, it can result in 2 good hunts for both of you, or you guys can hunt together, might make a new hunting buddy. But don't be afraid to adapt. You know, adaptability, that's what this whole tip is about, because there's a lot of different variables that could affect your hunt. So if the birds are going somewhere else, if your spot's taken, if someone rolls up on you, don't be afraid to switch it up. Don't be afraid to try something different. Adapt. So the 5th tip, and this should be pretty common sense, hunt prime conditions. When are you going to have the best hunting? I don't care if it's private, I don't care if it's public, when the conditions are absolutely perfect. For Nebraska, that would be a giant cold front coming through, maybe a snowstorm, good windy days. Those are just a couple instances. You know, hunt those migration days, those big cold front days, different day breaks in the weather. You know, we had a January warm-up last year, and then all of a sudden a big cold front came through and we had 60-mile-an-hour winds, and I went out and had a great mallard hunt that day. You know, hunt when the weather switches up, hunt those fronts, hunt precipitation, hunt windy days, and you know, it goes back into your scouting once again. But hunt those prime conditions, and you're going to have a lot better odds of being successful on public land. And the final tip for being more successful on public land is simply put in the work. If you put in the work, you do your scouting, you do your due diligence, you get to the spot early, you beat everyone else out there, you might have to pack in for a mile or two, you might have to, you know, rethink your decoy spread so you can haul all them decoys out there, or, you know, switch up your spread, go smaller or something. Do whatever it takes to get to the X, to get to that spot that you found while scouting. That all goes into it, you know, brushing up your blind, making sure that you can't be seen, making sure that you're tucked in there, you've scouted, you've got, you know, you've eliminated a lot of the possibilities for failure. Just simply putting in that work more times than not will allow you to be more successful on public land. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If I missed anything, let me know down below, and we will catch you out there. See ya.